an internet radio talk show where we help you connect spirit and divine guidance. Lisa Kay, your host, brings you shows that can enhance and transform your life with tips and new ideas for more happiness, abundance, and better relationships. Lisa is an expert on intuition and can show you how to strengthen your inner guidance to empower yourself. Each show is positive and uplifting to inspire your day. Her guest speakers are specialists on self-help, positive thinking, spirituality, and conscious living. Be the best that you can be with Between Heaven and Earth, Conscious Living for Your Soul.
And angel blessings to everyone. Our show today is called Change Your Life and Live Your Passion. Our guest today is Dianne Bischoff James. Now, Dianne transformed her life, losing 55 pounds, ridding herself of depression, conquering numerous debilitating health problems, and launching an acting career, all after turning 40. She now works as an empowerment coach to help others recognize their own personal power and potential, and educates her private clients to manifest and transform their hearts, minds, and bodies for optimal, authentic living. Dianne Bischoff James is a life reboot expert and a dynamic motivational speaker who encourages people to create a reality that is prosperous, deliberate, and meaningful. In the beginning, despite her business success and winning awards in marketing, Dianne felt a great personal unrest. At 40, she embarked on a journey to find her heart and passion for the dramatic arts. Over the course of 8 years, she became an actor with numerous film, television, commercial, and industrial credits. She rebooted her life by utilizing her business acumen and modern metaphysical skills to battle depression, weight loss, divorce, life cougar dating, physical afflictions, the recession, and an encore career, and even the death of a loved one. She is the author of The Real Brass Ring, a best-selling novel which has won 2 international awards and was chosen by Aspire magazine as a top 10 book for 2015. We're going to talk to Dianne today about how you can change your life and live your passion. Welcome, Dianne.
Oh, thank you so much, Lisa. I am so happy to be here today.
I'm so excited to have you, to actually have someone who's gone through so much in their life and walked down a path of, I think the American dream, and going out there and, going to school, doing the right thing, and coming out with a career, having a wonderful family life, and have all the material things that people are looking for in the American dream, and then saying, hey, this is something that I don't know if I want to do, and change your life, and then reboot it and live your passion. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your story and how you got to live your passion?
Okay, well, I totally agree with your synopsis. It was all about the American dream for me originally. My father was very strong, German background and ex-military, and he had said when we were growing up that if you do one of these 4 things, you're going to be happy. He said you can be a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, or an engineer. He said if you pick one of those 4 things, I think you can relate to maybe one of them, Lisa.
Yes. One of those 4 only.
Yeah, and that's it. Of that, that's your pool. And so I have one brother who's a doctor. I have a brother who is a lawyer. And I decided, oh, no, I'm going to be this big rebel. So I went off and I developed a career in marketing, but all my clients were engineers. So I kind of did the little one-off, and I was like, oh, I'll show you. So, yeah,
it was almost okay. It was pretty much okay. I think that's good enough.
That was bold. That was my big, bold move. And so what I did is I followed all those rules. I was like this great little soldier. I did everything everybody told me to do, got the big house, had the very, the expensive car, the expensive shoes. I had a Prada bag when it was in.
Nice.
Yeah, it was cute. But, so I kept pursuing all the stuff. And I was even told that you had to get married by a certain point.
Really? By your father?
Yeah, they drilled in this message.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, by 28, you better have this whole thing sewn up. Get yourself together, and then you're supposed to have all these kids. And when you have the kids,
did he give you how many kids you had to have to?
No, he was a little less
Oh,
specific on that.
more flexible there.
Yeah, yeah. But it was assumed that you, of course, would have a family and then helicopter over everybody and make sure everybody's doing.
And you're supposed to do this as a mom, as a mother, as a working woman, and do it all, and I assume do very well, right?
Well, and we
That's
were
a lot
the
of pressure.
first. Well, we were the first generation that they were telling us back. This is back in the 80s. You know, you can break that glass ceiling. So our instructions were, you know, you can bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan, and never let him forget he's a man. Do you remember that commercial?
Oh, yeah.
An oldie
Wow.
but a goodie. And I was listening, took it all in, and thought, oh, wow, you know, make all kinds of money, take care of everybody else, make sure there's food on the table. You probably have to cook it yourself. And then, you know, make sure your guy's happy.
Yeah, I bet a guy couldn't do all that. No, really, right?
No, seriously. And so I think we were the first group that came out, you know, because the women were, you know, this is after the war, after women were getting into the workplace.
I remember
and now
that,
developing
right?
careers.
After the 60s, when, you know, the liberation and we're all equal, and you know, but you know, you can have it all as mom and I guess CEO.
Exactly. CEO, but make sure the house is perfect and you're also the person there, you know, coaching I had, you know, I coached cheerleading, coach volleyball. I can't even play volleyball, but I was coaching it. All the meetings. And so, you know, that was the model and I made sure I followed it. And then on my 38th birthday, and this is, you know, after I had a bunch of kids and the house across from the lake and the whole thing, I had two people tell me in the same week, oh, you have to go see this woman. And her name is Sonia Choquette. And, you know, back in the day, she was still emerging. She'd had a book or two out. Now she has, I don't even know how many, 10, 14, 15 books. And she was doing readings. She's a psychic and a healer. She was doing readings in her home in Chicago. And I thought, well, that was kind of weird.
Wow, at her home still, huh?
Yeah, in her home. So it was.
I mean, now you can't, you know, it's very hard to get a reading with her. I don't know if she does them in her home, but yeah, she's very, very big author.
Yeah. She is, and she's very well known. And she was seeing people personally. Now I think it's more on the phone.
It's on the phone. I actually had a reading with her too. She's awesome, but you know, it's only on the phone and it's very expensive.
Very expensive. Yeah. Well, back then it was pretty reasonable for.
Wow, you actually got to see her. That's so cool.
But I didn't know what to expect. I really thought she was going to say, okay, you know, you've got a girl, everything's cool.
Did you believe in all this stuff at that time?
You know, I had been following metaphysics before I even knew what it was called. So I have always been attracted to it, even as a kid.
But this was like your first reading?
This was my first reading and my first real opportunity to speak to someone who could see the other side, the side that I couldn't see. And I was doing it just kind of as a birthday present to myself. I really had no expectations. Well, no, that's not true. I had an expectation that she was going to say, just continue on, go for it, you're doing great, and kind of give me a high five. That's what I thought she was going to say.
Make you feel good, right?
Yeah. So my expectations were, oh, this is going to be a pump it up kind of thing. So I sat in her office and sat across from her at this little like chair in this desk, and she had this little, you know, plush chair. And even after the first 5 minutes, she had me cut some cards, and I didn't even know what, you know, it was the tarot, you know, and I didn't even know what that was at the time. Cut some cards, put it down, and she kind of shakes her head a little bit, and then she started talking to me almost like a robot, and it was as if the human had left, and someone else was coming through and saying all these words. And she was almost yelling at me. It was, it didn't even start out nice.
Oh.
And she's like, you're going down the wrong road. She said, you know, you have to grab at this real brass ring. And if you don't grab it and hurry up, it's going to be too late.
Oh my gosh. So how did you feel, especially if this was your very first reading?
I was stunned and I didn't really understand. I was like, too late for what? Like, what's going to happen? Is this spontaneous combustion? Am I going to like get hit by a bus? I mean, what's going to happen to me if I don't do these things? And she goes, you're supposed to be an actor, an author, a teacher, a healer. Yes. And she's like, you have all these stories and these stories are going to help people. And she said, you're so off track that your bigger mission, she said, you have this overarching mission as well, which is to find your heart. And she said, you don't even have a heart right now. So,
Wow.
this
Did any of this like resonate with you, or were you kind of looking at her like, wow, you're this is crazy?
Well,
did any of it like, make sense to you at all?
I started getting, the chills, the hairs on my arms were standing up. I also started feeling like I was going to get sick.
Oh, wow.
Because
yeah.
it was, at the time I didn't understand it, but she was speaking truth from spirit, truth from above. But my head was, my blockhead was kicking in going, who are you? Who do you think you are? How dare you say this kind of stuff to me? And, what
Sure.
gives you the right to attack a person you don't even know? And so I started having all these multiple emotions, but at the same time, I was also sitting there, and she didn't say this at the time. I was 190 pounds. So for as much stuff as I had acquired, my physical body was grossly overweight. I could barely lift my arms. I was having pain in every single joint. So I had physical manifestation of being completely off track, but I didn't really understand even back then that was a sign, that was a direct correlation. She also said, and this is the part, she goes, you probably haven't told anybody else this, but I'm going to tell you, you're clinically and chronically depressed. And she said, you're depressed because you're living someone else's life. And she goes, and of course, it's your father and partly your mother, but mostly your father's life. And she said, and this life is not yours right now. So she said, stop being a good girl. She gave me a list of books to read. And she said, march yourself off to this place called Hoffman Institute. And she said, you need to go. You needed to go there years ago. So she goes, the sooner you can go, the better. And she said, and they need to get rid of all this, deprogram you. She said, you're like this, you have viruses everywhere.
Wow.
And you need to be clarified and cleaned.
That's amazing. I think it's a phenomenal, wow, just right in your face. And I want to know what happened after that, what happened next. But we're going to take a break right now and come back and hear your story.
The future of internet radio is here. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Do you want to be a better communicator? Do you want to better connect with the important people in your life? Do you want to enrich your relationships? If so, join me, Matthew Cooper, on the Positive Control System show every Wednesday evening at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Om Times Radio. I'll meet you there.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business, and share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business.
Matt Connerton here. Join Jen Coffey and I twice a week for Matt Connerton Unleashed, a political talk show that's a little different than what you're used to. No liberal or conservative agenda here, just an honest dialogue about truth and how things really work in the world of politics. Matt Connerton Unleashed, every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio.
Conscious media for conscious minds. Om Times.
And welcome back. I'm Lisa Kay, and you're listening to Between Heaven and Earth Radio. And I'm sitting here with Dianne Bischoff James, and we are talking about how to change your life and live your passion. And Dianne was giving us a story about how she went from before to after. And you were telling us this amazing story about how you were 190 pounds and you were going down the wrong path, and basically having this reading with Sonia Choquette, who told you you had to turn everything upside down and do something different, it sounds like. So Dianne, how did you go from, being overweight and being in the wrong job? I mean, did you How did you change? Was it an overnight thing? Did you just quit? You just say, okay, quit my job, doing a different thing in life? What'd you do?
Well, Lisa, it would have been easy if she would have just said change jobs or change a career, but she said fix everything. She said wrong relationship, that this was not heartfelt.
Oh my.
Yeah, and she said you're depressed. The overweight part was self-evident, and then she said you need to be an actor, an author, a teacher, and a healer.
Which is different from being like the corporate marketing person.
Yeah.
So what do you do? I mean, I get a lot of this many times. I have people who come to me for counseling, or, for coaching, I would say. And they're in a similar situation. They've gone down a path that they don't want to be in anymore. They have health issues. They are in a job that they hate and they know they have to switch. So it sounds to me like you knew that inside. And so what were some of the, how do you get your mind around that and change? What was the first thing you did?
Well, the first thing I did was cry.
Oh,
because it was too much. It was.
I would think that was a lot.
It wasn't everything fixed. So at
I'm
first
surprised you didn't go, oh, this is crazy. That it's just like tears you all down, right? Tears your whole, feeling about yourself down. You got to pull yourself back up. That must have been really hard.
I actually learned to honestly respect my tears and I respect the tears of others. I also, when I coach, a lot of people cry when I first start to work with them, because that just really tells you that you're on the authentic, you're talking truth. If tears come, you're speaking truth and you're speaking about hurt. And the hurt was that it was just, I was following messages that were not real and I needed to make all these shifts. So once I passed through that initial shock, it was almost like a post-traumatic shock. The first thing I did, I actually started educating myself. She gave me a list of 10 books. I didn't tell her I'd already read thousands of metaphysical books, but I decided to read more. I started digging in and trying to figure out what nugget I could grab to help move forward. And then I went off to Hoffman Institute, and that's the place, because the way I look at it is, we all have these scabs. Things happen growing up that didn't meet your needs. Maybe you weren't nurtured. Maybe somebody didn't just give you the love that you needed when you needed it. It could even just be as simple as you didn't get the answer that you were looking for from your parents one day when you said, my bike broke and I fell down and hurt my knee. And somebody's like, oh, you're fine. Well, whatever that was that hurt you remains, if it's a big hurt, it remains as trauma.
Oh, yeah, we hold on to it. Could you tell us a little bit about the Hoffman Institute and what that is?
Well, I call it, it's basically spiritual boot camp. You go for 7 days. It's in California. 90,000 people, probably close to almost 100,000 people have gone through so far. And for 7 days, you work on everything, every message that came in that wasn't real from mother, father, or any, leadership figures in your life usually. And it's usually very young because we get programmed. Even according to Piaget, we are in two different, we're in a couple modes until we're almost 12 years old. We're in concrete operations, which means everything comes in as fact. The filter isn't in place to actually take the information that came in and to sort through and go, oh, that's hooey. That wasn't me. You can't do that. It comes in as real. So they take everything that came in and they get rid of it. And it's like the onion. If you have maybe 12 layers, pretty much in 7 days, you get through maybe 10 of them and it's gone. So I had a steamer trunk full of bad messages, hurt, pain, things that I had learned that were not real, were not me. And I finished that program, and you stand up at the end. You don't really tell your full name. It's a little bit like that secret program where you don't say what you do. You don't talk about your roles. You don't, unless you really want to.
Then you can really say it, right? You can.
Yeah. So at the end, you stand up, and I made this. I don't know what possessed me, but I stood up at the end, and I said, "Hi, I'm Dianne, and I'm an actor, an author, and a teacher." And everybody starts clapping wildly in this little group that you've been tightly bound with for 7 days, and I walked off this stage and I said to myself, you are the biggest liar that ever walked on the planet. I wasn't doing any of that stuff, but it was really funny because another thought came in right behind it. And it was like, no, you know what? You're not a liar if you make it real.
So that's your inner self talking there, right? Yeah. That's your higher self saying, hey, listen, I like that.
You can do
really
it.
Cool.
And so I shifted. I got back and the first thing I did was went for an audition. And I thought, you know what? I've loved acting since I was born. I've was a high school musical superstar, but I hadn't done it, and I was now a 40-year-old woman and a 190-pound 40-year-old woman. So I, again, can't listen to the messages. You have to take all those negative tapes and basically like blow up every little thought bubble that comes in that isn't real. Because it was like, oh, you're too fat. Oh, you don't have any experience. Oh, you're not talented. And all that stuff started pouring in. And I'm like, no, I am not going to listen. I'm not going to be a liar anymore. I auditioned for my first show. It was for Oliver. And it was the scariest thing I ever did in my whole life because I wasn't prepared. I didn't even know what was going on. And I stood up and had to sing a song. And for the worst, it sounded like literally like I was probably screaming or screeching under my breath, but I just sang the song and these guys are staring at me like, oh my God, what is this woman doing here? And I thought, okay, that's it. That was the worst audition ever, but I'm not going to give up. And I started to walk toward the door and they're like, no, come back. Will you read for the part of Nancy? I'm like, wait a minute. Nancy and Oliver is one of the leads. So I kind of like looked at him like, okay. And I threw on a Cockney accent. I read for some lines. They perked up. I started smiling. And they then said, thank you so much. They escorted me to the door. And after waiting for 7 long days, I got a call. And the director said, we'd like to offer you a part. And I'm like, oh my God, here it is, right? Mm-hmm. I get to get the part, Nancy. And she goes, we'd like to offer you townsperson 1. I'm like, yes. And I was the happiest girl alive. I was in a play. I was now an actor, and I was no longer a liar.
So you see, it's true. It came true. So that little voice was right. Do you think that, boy, that was a lot to go through in the Hoffman Institute. Do you think everyone needs to go through that grueling 7-day purge?
Ooh, yes, but I would say most people know whether they have like a carry-on or a steamer trunk. I had like baggage, real big baggage. We moved every 2 years. So I had,
So
I had
you need the serious treatment there, right?
I needed serious help. Yeah. And some people I think that are a little lighter, there are some great techniques out there, and people that are available now that have, and I still am researching for the best techniques for people to be part of my whole second book. But there are techniques where you can do a lot of self-correction, self-evaluation where you get really clear and you can kind of get rid of some of those messages with a little bit more of a pop rather than a punch.
Right. Most people. Yeah. And I think it's good that you went through it because you had a lot of things that you had to grapple with. And, I think even if any of us did one, that would be a really good thing. Let's roll it forward quickly and get to so you're going through all this, and you obviously were able to reboot your life, and you lost 55 pounds. You are an actress now. You're doing the things that Sonia had said you really need to do. So how this changed? Do you feel that what has it done for you? Where are you today?
Oh, well, thank you. That's such a great question. The difference between then and today is that I think I have a completely different vibrational level. I love everything I'm doing.
I like the word vibrational level.
It just, everything.
You love everything. Everything.
Well, okay.
That's okay. It could be everything.
You know what? Let me put it
to you
this
way.
Even if
it's 90% or 80%.
I love the big stuff. I think that there's work involved in everything, and it's not fun to do the laundry. Okay. And I don't like going to the grocery store, but I do want the kids to eat, and somebody's got to go get it. So, I mean, there's ways to make almost everything fun, but I think one of the things I did is I put together these 14 rules for happy living. It's part of the book. It's part of the Real Brass Ring. And these rules have changed my life. And it started with that first courageous step of just going for an audition, but they're very simple shifts, and everybody can do these because most of us have been programmed that you don't get to enjoy, you really don't like your career, you just work till you retire. A lot of us don't really take a look at where our level is on resonating with happy versus resonating with,
Right.
just tolerating, or actually really below the line, which is actually depressed, which is where I was functioning. Or you can function way above the line, which is crazy, angry all the time, road raging. And so what I try to do, and one of the rules is to manage your wave. And we're beings of light, and that's where the vibration comes in. And if you kind of could draw like a straight line in front of your nose, there is literally this nice little wave that goes up and down, just like sound waves, light waves. They all have different frequencies, but they're all just waves. And what I try to do is to stay towards the center of that line, which is to keep your wave really nice, kind of calm.
Well, that's where you want to be, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to be too low. High is nice, but you certainly don't want that depression. So would you say you were able to eliminate that depression?
Yes. The depression is gone. And a lot of that had to do with, there's a bunch of different tricks. I would say some of us just have low serotonin, so I've had to really be conscious of the fact that I need to get sunlight. Even in the winter, it's hard because,
which I think kind of gets into the physical thing. So you were able to, how did you deal with that? How did you get that to happen for you? Better health?
Part of it is just really being aware that it has a whole lot to do with what we put in your mouth. So I do the juices. I make sure I get kale and spinach and apple and watermelon. That's my little
Did it take
drink.
you a long time to lose the weight?
Okay, Lisa, this is the weird part. It pretty much fell off.
How long?
Because it took about 3 months.
Wow.
I was dancing on stage.
Are you serious? 3 months?
I was on stage dancing every night doing this play.
Because you were doing what you loved.
Because it was so much fun.
It was so much fun. And you were
moving.
happy, right?
Yeah,
so you don't have to eat to make yourself happy. You were doing things that you were happy, that were making you healthy.
And when you are resonating on that wave, the weird thing is the other parts that you don't care for do fall away.
Absolutely. That your story is such a wonderful story. I think what our listeners are going to be listening for is, what are the little things that you did? What were or maybe the big things, or maybe the process that you went through. We'll talk about that when we come back from break, and we'll let our listeners know how you can go out and help them. So we're going to be right back.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on Om Times Radio.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millisers, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network. Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hi, my name is Monica and I'm the host of Co-Creating Now. Give yourself an opportunity to connect with your all-knowing higher self and manifest joy, love, and peace together every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
And we're back. This is Lisa Kay, and you're listening to Between Heaven and Earth. And we are talking about how to change your life and live your passion, how to find that passion, how to change it from where you are today, where you might not be too happy. And we're with Dianne Bischoff James, and we're at our half hour mark here, so we're gonna talk a little bit about how you can take advantage of some of the things that we offer. So I wanted to share with you Dianne's book. It's called The Real Brass Ring, Change Your Life Course Now. And I believe you can get that on Amazon. And Dianne, where else can people find your book?
It's on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com, and it's available in select bookstores.
Awesome. And your website is liveyoureverything.com?
Yes,
That's correct. Okay, liveyoureverything.com. So, and you can find Dianne there. You can find out more about her and what she, and her book, and what she has to offer for you so she can help you change your life and live your passion. And I have one thing that's coming up in June, and this is an online course. It's actually a level 2, but it's open to everyone in how to develop your intuition. This is a more in-depth class for people who feel that they have a pretty decent handle on some intuitive skills that they may have already. You know, some of us feel that we're pretty good intuitively, so this takes you to the next level. We do review level 1, so if you haven't taken it yet, you will get a quick overview there. But what you're going to get in level 2 is advanced techniques that are going to develop your intuitive and psychic skills. You can bring it up to a professional level if you'd like, or you can just learn more. And as a bonus, I'm going to teach you how to get your spiritual business started, ramped up, and noticed. And that's an added bonus course that's called How to Start Your Spiritual Business. It's a bonus for the class, and you'll get that as part of this level 2 advanced intuition and psychic development. And you're going to learn some business techniques you can apply to any small business, and also learn about internet marketing and how to leverage the web for your business. So if you want to look at and get a little bit more information, you can go to my website, lmk88.com/press, and it lists out some of the things you're going to learn. Let's talk a little bit about that. You'll learn how to get detailed information about anything that you would like intuitively, yourself or someone else. You'll learn how to do remote viewing, house blessings and clearings, medical intuition, which is really more about your intuitive insight and metaphysical energy in somebody's body or your own. You can learn how to get information about a person just from their name, which I'm really good at. And also a technique on how to scan timelines to read the future or the past. And we also teach you how to connect to past loved ones through evidential mediumship. And we go over things like, frequently asked questions, pitfalls, things to watch out for if you do a reading for others or if you do a reading for yourself, and how to get out there if you want to start and do readings for the public, how to get out there and be known, and the best way to build your client list. And, of course, using the internet the internet marketing power to reach more people and build your business faster, which is awesome because I love technology. It's absolutely phenomenal. The things, in fact, I was speaking to another famous author the other day, and he was saying had he had to do what he's doing today on his own 10 years ago, it would have cost him hundreds of thousands of dollars. But now with the internet, you can do it practically for free. So we'll teach you how to do all that. So that's what's coming up for me, level 2 again. It's Advanced Intuition Development, coming June 29th online. So wherever you are, you'll be able to take it. So let's go back. Let's get back to our discussion. And we're talking to Dianne Bischoff James about how she changed her life, and now she is living her passion. So Dianne, I was thinking during the break about, I wanted you to share how you can help people learn how to get where you've gotten, which is like riding the wave, as you put it, getting out of the sadness or the depression and now being on the level of, happiness all the time. So what are some of the things that you do to help people in that arena?
Well, the 14 rules are the fundamental rules that have helped people shift. private clients, and I do tour also. I go to quite a few of the expos, and so we're going to be at one coming up, June 6th and 7th. We're going to have actually a life reboot workshop, and that's in Tinley Park, Illinois, and then I have an entire schedule going to, I think, 4 or 5 different states between now and the end of the year. And these workshops, we have the chance to not only learn about the rules, learn the fundamental practice of the rules and how to employ them in your life, but also just a lot of really good techniques that people can use. And these are the 3 basic phases: the getting clear, which is finding out and reconnecting with your authenticity, and then to get going, which is the action part. That was the showing up, just showing up wherever it is you need to do to take these first steps. And then comes the get happy part, because once we get that resonant value really high and consistent, the happiness is there. It has a lot to do with the fact that very often people are not finding and experiencing their true self. So one of the techniques that's in the rules is about speaking your piece. And it's just a great thing to practice. And it does take practice for many of us, Lisa. It's just not something that I was trained to do originally. I always say my family has a rug in the middle of the family room, and it's 20 feet tall from everybody's swept messages, secrets, whatever
under the
they
rug.
say. Yeah, it's under the rug, but the rug is so tall that if anyone
Wow.
ever took the rug off, I think the house would explode.
How do you do that, though? How do you say, you hear about that, speak your truth, say your piece. How do you do that without, because sometimes what conjures up an image when I hear that is, people just sort of saying things because they do need to get it out, but then it comes out a little too raw, and it ends up, and somebody who's sensitive like me, wouldn't want to hurt somebody else. So how do you do that? How do you say your piece without, at the same time keeping the peace? Let's put it that way.
Well, the trick there and this takes practice, is to learn how to articulate things so that you're speaking from your perspective. It really, nothing really has anything to do with anybody else anyway. Our development is only for self. So one of the key words and a really good trick is to say, that doesn't work for me. Because no one else can tell you what's going to work for you. Nobody else can tell you how you feel. Not even a doctor can tell you how you feel. Right. So when you really start getting in touch, and I actually take a step back very often when people say, will you come and do this charitable event? I will usually take a step back and ask myself and put that, like, you have a yes and a no button inside your head. And I'll say, okay, do I really want to go? And if the answer is no, I will say, that doesn't work for me. And I'm really sorry. I have another, and I be truthful in it. Either if I have another commitment, I say that. If I don't, I'll just say, we're going to spend family time or whatever it is. So it's the little white cover-ups and the little.
I like that. Do you have a book of those?
Yeah,
we need a list.
You know because, that list, like,
yeah,
I have to be doing this.
Because it is your truth. It is the truth, but you don't want to get pulled into. And I think people appreciate that too, because they don't want you to do something you don't want to do. They
don't. Yet we've been programmed to say yes, so they do. So that's the ultimate. That to me was the irony. If I said, the funny thing is, if you say that doesn't work for me, I have never had pushback on that one, because really people can't argue with it. If it doesn't work for you, if they say, oh, come on anyway, then they're actually going against your highest and greatest good, if you think about it. Right. So
there's another one I heard. I was just thinking of.
What's that?
I'm not comfortable with that.
And that's a good one. You have to be a little careful when I try to say things that don't allow any judgment to it.
Well, that's true. That's a good one.
Yeah. So,
right.
I really
that's a good
speak
point.
From my heart. And one I even tried recently. Okay, here's a funny story. I just put one out. Like, someone wanted me to go to this thing, and it was like a mastermind group, and it really was not right for me right now, because I'm writing a second book and I have all these commitments. And I wrote back, I'm so sorry, it doesn't work for me at this time. Please keep me in mind for the future. I think what you're doing is amazing. But for me personally, I need to focus over here. And so the person wrote back, I'm so bummed. I hope you're getting help somewhere if you're not getting help here, in this whole long thing. And for 1 second I keyed in, like, oh my gosh, they're disappointed in me. I had that little, like, I'm used to pleasing. I'm used to being a pleaser.
Sure.
And I thought, switched it around again in my head. And I thought, you know what? I just said that doesn't work for me. And the truth is that I'm getting guidance from above that I really need to focus in another area.
Yes.
So how could someone judge, number one, my own higher self direction? Number two, the fact that I already articulated very clean and clearly that this is not the right fit right now. It doesn't mean I don't want to in the future. And also, it was like the fact that they're trying to pressure me is an indication that that's probably a really bad fit.
Oh, yeah. Because they
so
don't understand your side.
They're
not willing to work with you, right?
And it's also from their perspective. It's not really taking into the highest and greatest good of both people. So for their perspective, it probably had a fee to it, so they would make some money. But from my perspective, it just wasn't really a good fit. So, and anyway, so I really detached when I looked at it from either way, and I thought, wow, multiple signs that this really isn't a good fit. So I'm really glad I passed. And then, another gracious message on best of luck, so happy you're doing this, and so you can be there for the other person and supportive, but you don't have to engage. And that you have to practice it though, especially.
I think that's what that is important, is to practice. It's to have the words, maybe, write them down before you have to say them. So at least you could have something, because on the spot, what I find is when you're on the spot and you want to please and you want everything to go, hand in hand and be cooperative, it's hard to come up with the words. It's hard and then it's hard to stick. So you say you're the canned one that, that works, which I think is great, what you have that doesn't work for me. But then you get thrown at something else. And then now I ran out of things to say. So, then you get kind of manipulated into it. So I think, that's a wonderful practice to practice. Come up with more things to say. And then, because I find that happens to me as well. So, are there, one of the things that I wanted to do, what I always want to do afterward is go back and relive it and go, oh, I should have said this, I should have said that. Do you think that's a good thing?
Well, I think one thing is to always speak from the emotional center, and that's the part again where it's really hard to no one can find the fault, the judgment. So, for example, my son came in and literally kicked his shoes. I'd cleaned up the entire day, then went to 7 meetings, came back, and the house was trash when I walked in, and I just said
trashed. Okay,
trashed.
Let's hold it right there because I think we're going to a break. Let's hold that thought. We'll come back. Okay, came home. Room was trashed. We'll be right back.
The Real Conscious Connection. Om Times Radio. IOM FM. Join Elliot Jollish, the business therapist, each Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Elliot Jollish Hour as he interviews business experts on your behalf. And you're invited to email your business questions to questions@ecjgroup.com for answers, live, on air every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Elliot Jollish Hour. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive, dedicated community. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Know what to do, just can't figure out how to fit it all into your busy life? It doesn't have to be that way. Hi, I'm Ellen Baisberg from Seamless Life. Join me every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio and learn the how of conscious living. Let me and my guests help make your life seamless.
The cutting edge of conscious radio. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
And we're back. I'm Lisa Kay, and this is Between Heaven and Earth. So we're talking to Dianne Bischoff James, and you were telling us a story about how we're going to, a scenario that would help us with what to say when we don't want to be, I guess, pushed in the wrong direction. So you were telling us, I guess you were walking into, was it your son's room that was trashed?
No, it was the whole house, actually. It was
the whole house, not just the room. Yes. Oh, nice.
Yes. And so,
oh.
and one of the keys, and this is another one of the rules of the 14 rules, is, pay attention to radar. Okay, well, mine was going off like beep, 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 beep. And I thought, okay, normally I could go rage a hall on
your
this
radar.
thing.
So this is your inner conscious, your inner voice saying, hey, hang on, listen, right?
Yes. It's okay. When you get that, for me, it's a twist at the gut. For everyone has a different place where it probably hits, but mine very much is solar plexus, and it just twists and it starts to say, okay, this is completely not right. But instead of going into raging or suppressing it, the best way this is the best way you can keep your family life at total peace is to have that minute of expression where I said, I tried to use his words, dissed. I feel upset. I feel actually slightly hurt. And I do feel kind of angry that, you kick shoes through books, and I said, and then you come to immediate, what can we do to have a verbal agreement? So it's immediate conclusion and closure on what's going to happen in the future if this happens and what you can do. We can agree that will be the resolution of this because we can't continue because we talked about it. And so he makes the verbal agreement. This is the consequence if it doesn't happen. And the funny thing is that the pressure cooker never builds up. Okay. So we have like a family here.
Now, how old was your son at the time?
12.
Ah, okay. 12. So you see, that's an interesting dynamic. No, because I think, and I have a 17-year-old now, but you really have to listen to that part of you that stops and says, okay, don't blow up, because the younger your child is, the more you have this, it's easier to just blow up when your child is younger. So yeah, it takes a lot, right, to stop yourself and say that and allow them to also see you as more of a in control and more mature parent, right?
And then they'll model it. And that's the beauty. So the next generation can model this family life where it's peaceful. Now, granted, things don't always happen the way you want them to happen, but it's the peace that comes from being able to say in the moment, speaking your piece, saying, I was dissed, I was this, I was that. And I like to jump straight to what can we do together where we either get a verbal or a written. Sometimes I make them do written agreements with me. And then we actually have an agreement. And then your expectations are clear and the consequence. So you skip all the stuff that gets bubbled up. You don't have to stuff. And that full expression of full fear or anger, what it could be that you're starting to feeling, you honor it. You honor it and you let it actually come out. Because if you're a stuffer, usually it will come out at inappropriate times, or you take food in to shove that down, or pills, or antidepressants, so I would say a lot of what the happy living comes from getting clear, and getting clear is about being clear of who you are, what you like, what you don't like, and what you want to do and what you don't want to participate in. And so that's just that whole first step of actually taking little moments to practice this in a healthy way.
I like that. I think that's wonderful.
It took me, Lisa, like about 2 years
to
have this mastered. And even in a CEO situation, someone was not getting back to me, and I was always in like a crisis trying to reach out, and they had agreed. And I said to a CEO of a major corporation, I just want to tell you, when you don't get back to me, it makes it very difficult for me to finish the project. I'm not personally upset, but it's actually making it's sabotaging the expediency of what we're trying to get to in a result. So what can we do to work together on that? And I said this to the head of a big company.
Well,
and
that's
I think
great.
He was floored because I called him out on the fact that he doesn't get back to me in a reasonable period of time.
That was wonderful. Very smooth.
And we talked about it. We had a resolution. I said, who's your backup? If I can't reach you, I will take private numbers. I'll do whatever it takes, but I'm calling you because I need you, not because I want you.
Right. Well, all after that practice, it really comes out so nice and smooth. I think that, that's a good example of what people can do. And it's got me inspired to, really be conscious of that and work on it as well. You spoke earlier about riding the wave. Can you explain what that is and how, we could use it to maintain our happiness or bring more happiness in our life?
Well, the wave is all about what you just mentioned. It's about consciousness. And we have this opportunity to respond any way. There's a plethora of ways in which you can respond to any situation. But to be aware of what your goal is to ride this wave and to have, even the Dalai Lama says his experience of a happy life is to have this peaceful, comfortable, relaxed experience all day, every day. It's about being fully expressed, but it's about never having those super, super, super highs and super, super, super
So how do you
lows.
do that?
What you do is you remain aware of your ability to respond and always look for the thought that feels better. So
okay, hang on a minute. Remain aware of your ability to respond.
Yes.
Can you explain that?
Everything is a choice.
Okay.
Everything is a choice. And everything has an opportunity to pick a better thought.
So then it sounds to me like you would need to slow down.
Yes, that's part of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's...
I sometimes even give myself a timeout. I've had to leave the house for my own timeouts because I don't want to have a negative. I don't want to be angry. So I'll take a minute and I'll think.
Do you ever get angry and say, and none of us wants to really be super angry, but do you ever, when you take that break, do you let it out, in another way?
I let myself feel it, but I usually go for that thought that feels better. There's usually a lesson in it. If something is, there's two key things. Either we love something or we're learning from it. So I try to go for the lesson and look for the higher education, whatever just happened, whether it be something.
Well, sometimes there are things that make us so angry we just have to be angry, and because you're so red, right? Red's my color for anger, but you're just so in the moment of anger that you can't really think of the good thing, right? So what do you do? Just kind of let that happen, and then
in practice,
how do you come off of that?
In practice, honestly, I don't get to the high red very often. I may bubble up to a pink sometimes, but I don't get to the red because I'm aware that I don't want to respond that way. And another quick story. Holiday wasn't going right. All these things were falling apart. I was getting so angry because I had to do 2 holidays in a row with sit down for 12, and it wasn't even 3 weeks apart. And I started snapping at people, my kids and the family, while the Christmas Eve. And so I realized that I was really misbehaving. And I gave myself a timeout. So 10 o'clock at night, I went out to the lake, and it was like 20 below zero, and I didn't care. It's in Lake Michigan, and I sat down there with 5 coats on.
20 below zero.
Yeah, it was.
You're brave.
It was cold. Well, we exaggerate here because.
I'm serious. I bet it was. That's cold.
But I was sitting there, and I said to myself into the water, trust me, I'm the only one out on Christmas Eve doing this. Yeah. And I said, this isn't the way I want to behave, and I had this epiphany. I took that time out and the thought came over and it said, you get to create the Christmas you want.
Oh, wow.
Beauty. You're right. I came in, I apologized. I said, Mom's been angry. I'm talking to myself in third person, but I was like, I'm acting the way I don't want to. I'm so sorry. I yelled at everybody. I'm angry because I feel like a doormat. I did 2 holidays in a row, and I didn't want to do the second one.
Back to saying peace, right?
I'm inauthentic with me. And everybody calmed down. They were like, thanks, Mom, for saying that. We could tell you were really edgy. And I'm like, what can we all do together to
I
get
love
through
that. That's great.
Literally, I had to go sit myself in freezing cold. I almost, I was sitting right by the water's edge going, what is my problem? And so I took the opportunity to really evaluate it and to look for what that lesson is and to kind of go above it and say, wow.
So I think that's the key, though. You look for the lesson because it's reminding me of times when I've gotten that upset and angry. And then how do you get out of that, right? And then how do you come back and bring the unity back to the people that you were angry with? And and what I loved about what your story said is that you found the words, though. You found the right words to say, which was not just saying your piece, but got your point across, and at the same time, it didn't sound like it didn't make you feel like the victim or the person who is angry. It's just stating the situation. I think that's wonderful.
And one of the key things is usually those nuggets, that nugget of whatever fires you off, is very often of a similar bag. There's a bag we each have of nuggets, and each, like I get fired off at feeling like a doormat.
Sure.
I get fired off when other people don't contribute. I know those are my hot buttons. And what I find is whenever I am way fiery and crazy into the red, it's because one of those got hit. And so being aware of yourself and knowing that that's your lesson, that it's about, for me, it's about communicating to the point where other people contribute.
I think it's important to know yourself. Yeah. And I think that's what that moment of being by yourself does, is it helps you go back and do that introspection and look at yourself and say, okay, these are my hot buttons, and that's why, that's why I got crazy. Do you, so these are things that are part of your book, yes?
Yes.
And more importantly, I think, coming up in your new book, but also the work that you do with people, correct?
Yes.
And so if we let people go, we're coming up to the end here. So I wanted people to know where they could reach you at your website, liveyoureverything.com, LIVE, your, YOUR, everything.com. And you can find Dianne there. Dianne, thank you so much for joining us today. You were awesome.
Oh, thank you. This has been so much fun,
It
Lisa.
was fun.
Thank you for having me.
I loved having you on. You'll have to come back when your book is out, or even before your book is out, and maybe we'll be out there on the expo circuit seeing each other and, help changing people's lives, which is what you're doing. I think it's great. Thank you again. The book is The Real Brass Ring, Change Your Life Course Now, with Dianne Bischoff James. You've been listening to Between Heaven and Earth, Conscious Living for Your Soul. You can reach me, Lisa K, at lmk88.com. Tune in next time right here on Om Times Radio. Angel blessings to everyone.